Now, welcome back. As of January 1st this year, the national minimum wage per hour came into effect, marking a significant step in Namibia's labor standards. Now, tonight, we are making a follow-up on the level of compliance from employers. In studio with me to talk about the national minimum wage and adherence is Peterson Kambinda, the Commander-in-Chief of the Namibia Revolutionary Transport and Manufacturing Union, Naretu. A very good evening to you, Peterson, and thank you very much for joining us on Business Today.
No, thank you very much, Kalunduka, and thank you to the viewers. And thank you for having us.
Peterson, it has been 3 months since the implementation of the national minimum wage came into effect. How is the level of compliance so far? What has the union observed?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. What we have learned is that Naretu being in the transport, logistic and manufacturing, I will be able to say that in the transport industry, because this is the industry which we have been operating at least for the past 3 years before the amendment of our constitution. So in the transport, we were proactive that before the national minimum wage was introduced, Naretu was already introducing its own national minimum wage, which was above already what the government have introduced. So the only challenge which we are facing is in the manufacturing sector itself. So that side, the compliance, I will be able to say that it is quite challenging because there is a lot of employees which were earning as little as $8, and now for them to be able to be increased to $18, that is a $10 increase. So it is a huge struggle which we have been facing since January up to date.
Peterson, it is quite a significant bump there. You touched a bit on compliance there, yes, when you're speaking. How widespread is non-compliance? I mean, again, you alluded to compliance being a challenge in the manufacturing sector, but just across the board, how widespread is non-compliance?
No, you see, what we have noticed, us being a stakeholder at the Office of the Labour Commissioner and always be going there, you will be able to hear that there is a lot of referrals which had been made to the Office of the Labour Commissioner, and it is based on the national minimum wage, which it's supposed not to be, because the government have already gazetted that employers need to pay at least a minimum of $18, except for the other industries. But now you will still find employers not complying or not paying what the government have gazetted. So that becomes a very serious challenge. That compliance, especially in some of the industry, except the transport, but a lot of the other industries, it is still a headache.
Now, in situations where some employers are not complying or being non-compliant, what are some of the legal steps that can be taken against employers who fail to meet some of these compliance requirements?
The legal step which is provided for currently now, which is a long process, is that when a company is not in compliance, if those employees do have, they are having a union, so their union needed to be able to refer a dispute to the Office of the Labour Commissioner, so that they could be able to, the Office of the Labour Commissioner can be able to go hear that case, and when the union present this to the office, to an arbitrator, then an arbitrator will be able to give an award to force the company for them to be able to comply. But the hurdle on that is that a dispute can be able to be referred today, and it might be able to take even 6 or 1 year for it to be able to be disposed.
Right.
So that makes that the employee at least for 6 or 1 year from the time the dispute had been referred, the employee will still be able to be paid less than the national minimum wage.
Tell me, Peterson, in situations like these and situations where employers are non-compliant, how does that particular situation then impact or affect non-unionized employees?
Currently, as we speak now, when we hear from a lot of other employees which are coming to our offices. Some of them even belongs to the unions. And some of the unions are even advising the employees to continue still being paid less than the national minimum wage, which is very worrisome even to ourselves, that when employees who don't belong to the unions, they are even worse treated on, because the company knows already that these employees are not protected. So what they have to do, then exploitation start coming in, because these employees, they are not protected, and these employers start doing as they please.
I mean, still on that particular issue, what have you found and what has the union found are some of the excuses that are being employed by some employers? And you know, with organizations like Naretu, how are you then acting or looking at countering some of these excuses that come up from an employer's perspective?
You see, I will be able to give you a typical example is that a lot of the employers, they claim that the money they are making is not sufficient, or it's not enough for them to be able to pay the national minimum wage. But to give you a typical example is that I'll give you a company which is operating in a charcoal, whereby that this company will be able to be making one bag of a charcoal when they are selling it, let me say it is $40. And an employee will be able to manage to package, let me say, maybe 40 bags in a day. So that will be able to make it that the money which this employee is making already for the employer, already when you look at it, it might be able to be that this employee is making already 400, for example, which he's making for the employee for the day, or 1,000 to the employer. But then the employer, because if you take that national minimum wage, it translates to 162 Namibian dollars per day. Now, this 162, how can an employer who is making, that employee is making 1,000 for him in a day, but he cannot be able to take 162 from the 1,000 to pay the employee? So those are the loopholes which they are using for them. The excuse is simple, to say that they are not making enough money to afford the employees.
Have you found that, or rather, how serious would you say government how serious is government through relevant authorities? You keep on mentioning the Labour Commission, which is the regulating, or the regulatory authority, or the overarching authority there, in making sure that there is full compliance across the board.
Yeah, the challenge which we have in our country is that we have got very good laws, but implementation is a problem. Yes, we have implemented the national minimum wage, but do we have good supervision over those national minimum wage which we have implemented? The answer from the angle I'm sitting is no. Why? It's because you have got labor inspectors in the ministry. But if you go to the ministry now, even here in Windhoek, if you go to the office, the Ministry of Labor, you will be able to go find, let me say, for example, 8 labor inspectors, which are servicing over 400 inhabitants in Windhoek. Will these people be able to be enough to be able to supervise? The answer is no. So that is the challenge which we have, that the laws which we have, they are very good on paper, but practically we are not doing enough for us to be able to see that those laws which we have enacted for people, they are not giving us the desired results.
Right, then, Peterson, from that perspective, then, what remedial action should be looked into, or what remedial action can be taken to remedy some of these challenges?
You see, we have borrowed a lot of laws from South Africa.
Right.
Now, in South Africa, you will be able to find that a labor inspector have got a certain level of authority. Because our current labor inspector, even if I come to you and say that, Kalunduka, you are not paying your employers, I am an inspector, and I come and say that you are not paying the employees as per the national minimum wage, I have got no authority to enforce. That becomes a problem, because they can only come and talk. There is no enforcement thereafter. So the only way is that now, for an enforcement, a union needs to be able to refer a dispute, or any employee themselves, with a lack of information, that information, unless this employee needed to be able to refer a dispute, and even sometimes when a conciliator or an arbitrator have made a ruling or an award, that award still, the Office of the Labour Commissioner have got no power to enforce you still need to take it to court.
Right.
But how many people can afford to go to court?
Right.
Yes.
There is an interesting point that you highlighted of information, and I just want to pivot there and say education also, because it looks like there are some workers who are accepting just any increase or any increment on top of their already existing salaries, even though it does not meet the requirements of the minimum wage. This does beg the question, Peterson, whether workers are really being educated and informed on what the minimum wage really and exactly means.
Yeah, no, the knowledge, it is a very serious problem. Education or awareness towards the laws which we are making for our people, it is very serious a problem that, yes, we can be able to have the laws, but these people, when they doesn't know, because when you go, we have been facing those challenges at Nareto, that you will be able to go to the employees and tell them that, listen, the national minimum wage is $18, which you need to be paid. But then the employees, they might be able to come back to you and say that, no, but our employer said he can only pay us $16, so we are fine with 16. Imagine now that where there is a union, employees want to be able to accept that $16, which is below. But imagine now where there is no union, which can be able to help them to pass that information, then it becomes a problem.
Moving on to some of the mandate and the actions and initiatives taken by Nareto, regarding labor issues under your mandate, your union recently held a strike at the Pretoria's plant hire. What led to this particular strike?
Yeah, no, the employees of Pretoria's have joined us. And after they joined us, we signed a recognition agreement with the company. We went into negotiations. Unfortunately, we could not reach an agreement. So after that, the only remedy there is that we needed to refer the dispute to the Office of the Labor Commissioner. Right. And after referring it to the Office of the Labor Commissioner, the next step is that the Office of the Labor Commissioner, again, does not have power to decide on behalf of the union or the company who need to accept what. So what they do there is that they have to issue a certificate of unresolved dispute. And we were issued with the certificate of unresolved dispute because we could not agree. And after that, then we have to be able to go on the strike, because the problem there is that both what the company was offering, bringing to the table, unfortunately, our members could not accept it. So we have to be able to embark on the strike, which had been going now. Today have reached 8 days of the strike.
Speaking of the strike, we understand that in the process, the company may have violated some strike rules. Talk to us a bit about that, what that looked like.
No, you see, after we have now come back from the Office of the Labor Commissioner, the next step before a strike have to commence is that we need now to negotiate with the company what are the procedures and how we will be able to conduct ourselves into the strike. Unfortunately, this is that some of the key thing is that the company is not allowed, which we have agreed into the rules, that the company, they are not allowed for them to recruit new employees for them to be able to come and do the work of the striking employees. So during that process, when the strike have started, unfortunately, the company have attempted many times for them to be able to bring in escape labor, which are, in other words, they are called temporary employees, for them to come and do the work of the striking employees. So those violations, unfortunately, we have to deal with them, that we have to stop them, because they have agreed to the rules that they will not be able to do that.
Peterson, I mean, one can't help but wonder or even think, what challenges then would some of the workers or the striking workers face when companies ignore strike agreements, like in this particular instance?
Yeah, no, it is always, that is why we will be able to be saying that unions are sometimes, I will be able to say most of the time, is important for the employees, because should this employee, for example, if there was no union and there was no one who understand what are their rights, at least minimum rights, the company could be able to do as they please. But it is important that we were there, unfortunately, who understand and who knows that what are the striking rules and how they need to be able to be applied and when to apply them. So
Right.
unfortunately, it went well.
I can only imagine if I'm an employer and I see the
Yeah.
red beret and Peterson from Nareto, I will not be happy. What kind of resistance does Nareto face from employers, and how do you navigate and resolve and address some of these challenges?
Yeah, no, thank you. With our color in the first place is that we were deliberate with them when we chose the colors of Nareto, that when we arrive, we needed to have a presence. And the presence is not of a sellout, but in actual fact to be able to try to correct some of lot of the historical mistakes. So every time when we arrived at an employer's place, the first thing they think is that trouble have arrived. But I will be able to say that it is not the case at all times. Trouble only comes when there is provocation, but you will never be able to find yourself fighting a person who is not fighting you. So when we arrive there, the purpose of a union, it's actually not to fight, it's a stakeholder to be able to assist to create a conducive environment for employee and employer.
You mentioned the stakeholders, Peterson. I mean, there has been a lot of talk and speculation and how do alleged corrupt labor consultants and bribed chairpersons affect workers' well-being?
Yeah, the challenge which we have been having, and which is very regrettably, is that 35 years after independence, a lot of employers still does not appreciate employees. You will be able to see in their values and mottos, they will be able to be saying employees are our most important assets and all of that, but it is just only by paper and by mouth. But in practice, most of employers, unfortunately, it's not the case. That you will be able to find that whenever, especially when they hear that Kalonduka, for example, is the one who have maybe spoken to the union the first time. So the next thing they will be able to see is that they will be able to cook up charges, which will be able to lead for that employee to be able to go to a disciplinary hearing.
Right.
So when a chairperson is coming, in most cases and at all times, a chairperson is appointed by the employer. And when the employer appoints that chairperson is already given a predetermined outcome. So they will tell him that, yes, you need to be able to do your magic. What we want is that the end result is that Peterson needed to be fired. So do whatever you need to do, that this employee needed to be able to be fired. And like now we are seeing that there is a lot of mushrooming labor consultant. A lot of them, they are not even registered, but the companies are using those lot of unregistered labor consultants for them to be able to chair disciplinary hearings in order for them to be able to get rid of the ringleaders or those employees which they perceive that they are at least the voice of the others.
Okay. Peterson, how has Nareto been able to take arbitrators to court despite financial challenges?
Yeah, no, you see, a union is a non-profit making organization, so that we receive membership fees every month from our people. And that membership fee which we are receiving, we need to be able to make use of that membership fee to service our members. That is including that when an arbitrator have made a ruling or an award which we think that award is not in our favor, or at least we see that we don't agree with it, then we need to be able to take that arbitrator for a rescission, or we have to be able to go to the labor court, or even if it have to escalate until higher court. So far, we have done several reviews and several arbitrators. We have managed to be able to take them on for us that we have not agreed with their rulings, unfortunately.
We are running out of time, but I do want to put this to you. We did touch a bit on the Labour Commissioner, whose office is also being accused of causing delays in resolving labour disputes. You highlighted earlier today or earlier on in our discussion that it takes anything between 6 months to a year to actually really come to an amicable resolve regarding a particular issue. From your perspective as a union, and the Labour Commissioner being, or the Labour Commissioner's office being one of your biggest, if not your biggest stakeholder, What reforms would you say are needed to ensure that the Labour Commissioner's Office functions effectively?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit on that question is that I think in our view, our position, we appreciate the first step our president have taken to merge the office of the Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Justice, because that had always been a stumbling block. So one of the reform which we are looking at, hopefully the minister will be able to consider, is that they need to be able to empower arbitrators, that when they have given an award, it must be able to be equal as like it had been made out of court.
Right.
So it become a court order. Then that will be able to be easier to enforce. Because currently now, unfortunately, the arbitrators, they make awards, but they cannot enforce their own awards. So it's just because of time, but I think I can be able to end there.
Peterson, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate your insights, and we'll be keeping track on the progress, not only at your union, but also a lot of the labour concerns and issues that are happening in the country. Thank you very much for joining us on Business Today.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was Peterson Kambinda discussing the national minimum wage and adherence. He is also the Commander-in-Chief of the Namibia Revolutionary Transport and Manufacturing Union, NARETU. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Business Today. From all of us here, pleasant viewing further.